Welcome to Ahoy. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most ambitious and historically grounded multiplayer games that I have seen in a long time. This is currently being developed by a small indie studio called Capstan Games, and as you can see, this is a first-person, age-of-sail naval experience. No fantasy, no magic, no Hollywood fluff, just the wind in your sails, a stubborn crew, and the brutal beauty of naval warfare in the year 1780. So let's take a closer look. Ahoy is a multiplayer naval sim set in the Caribbean during the height of Age of Sail, specifically the year 1780. It's grounded in history, realism, and a strong respect for the realities of the time period. They're not really delving into the fantasy realm whatsoever here. This is going to be the next phase of historically accurate games that I think we've all been longing for. Of course, we've had titles like Kingdom Come Deliverance in the past and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 more recently. These have also strived to not be fantastical, but have elements of myth within the story being told, yet they are historically accurate as far as they possibly can, whilst making it an enjoyable experience. And that's what Ahoy is also trying to do. There's no fantasy pirate adventure. Instead, a proper naval experience. You and your friends form a crew, trimming sails, navigating treacherous waters, and engaging in full-scale naval warfare with ships built from real 18th century plans. Yes, they have delved in that far. You know when in Kingdom Come 2, they used real star maps from actual medieval times in the Czech Republic? Well, they're kind of trying to do something similar here, using the real plans to try and make these as authentic to the time as possible within Ahoy. You begin as a naval officer, subject to the Articles of War, and from there you carve your path. Command your own ship or join a friend's crew. You'll manage NPC trailers, you'll manage NPC sailors, operate cannons, steer, navigate, and keep the rigging in line. Every role matters, and coordination is key. I think this is so rare for a multiplayer game, and specifically a multiplayer naval combat game. These titles are so few and far between, and so rare. I mean, we had Sea of Thieves, but that wasn't exactly an authentic naval experience. It was the fantasy pirate experience. You had a game like Black Wake, which is probably the closest to what we have here, where you'd load cannons, you'd of course fight in multiplayer battles, but that game died off very, very quickly as well. So Ahoy is hoping to take this to another level, and on a budget of, well, trying to push it past indie, and there's a reason that I'm comparing this so much to Kingdom Come Deliverance, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. Capstan Games is a tiny, yet globally distributed indie team made up of developers, artists, historians, musicians, and designers. Everyone involved is working out of sheer passion at this point in time, and most of what has been built was made by volunteers or part-time freelancers. You see, core vision is to try and bring real history into the modern gaming space, without shortcuts, without sanitizing the hard parts, without sacrificing depth. They're committing to try and staying as independent as possible, and that's why they've got this Kickstarter. Now, this Kickstarter page is absolutely huge. As you can see, it is raising funds at a rate of knots. I mean, over $300,000 within its first announcement, and of course, they are going higher and higher. I think this is going to push into the million, if I'm going to be completely honest, and this is something that we saw back in 2012. When Kingdom Come Deliverance was first initially ideated, they also released it as a Kickstarter. They passed over $1 million, and it meant the first Kingdom Come Deliverance had enough hype, and of course, then more investors got interested, and they were able to release it. That then spiraled into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 with a much bigger budget, into much more of the mainstream, and I think we're going to see the same thing here. I think this is the start of something very special. And in fact, KCD themselves know. I actually found out about Ahoy because of Daniel Vavra, the lead of Warhorse Studios, tweeting about this game, which is, well, meaning that there is something big on its way. Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay though. How does it actually work? Of course, it's all about realism. You'll be sailing real ships, and everybody has their own role, whether you are, the captain, the ship's first mate, the deckhands, doing the rig, even sitting up in the crow's nest. You might be on the yardarms adjusting sails, or even holding down those cannons and loading them, even barking orders from the helm. And this game does not hold your hand, but it's not designed to gatekeep either. The kind of idea is seamanship should be easy to learn but hard to master, trying to find that combination between combat and navigating, because you're going to have to work together to get your ship into the right place before you even start doing anything like firing cannons or even boarding other ships, reading the wind, watching the horizon, and using instruments to get your bearings. But we've talked about the overview of the game. Let's actually get into the nitty-gritty of what the timeline is of this title. Capstan Games isn't promising a giant open world on day one. Instead, they're building in stages, starting with solid mechanics and expanding pretty carefully over time. In Q1 of 2026, we're going to be getting an alpha. This is going to be in the form of Sea Trials, the first playable version. This isn't about combat, it's about actually making a point that this is a game that exists, at least showcasing that they know what they're doing. It will be a sailing experience experience to test the core mechanics like steering, winch management, navigation, and ship control. So if you do actually back the project now, you will be able to have a look at this once it comes out. As with all these Kickstarter videos, none of this is sponsored. Please use it to your own discretion. However, what I would say is this thing looks goddamn gorgeous. Just being able to sail around the seas, sure, it isn't the full combat experience yet, but at least there is something here that shows these guys know what they're doing. But then it's when Q4 2026 comes around and we'll be getting a full PvP release. Combat comes in. The arena will be a competitive team-based multiplayer mode set in the real-world historical Caribbean locations. There are 4 key game modes planned at launch. Sea Trials, of course, that's still your casual sailing and role-playing thing, maybe even being able to do races at some point. Beats to Quarters, which will be team versus team naval combat. There'll be Naumicca, there'll be Naumantia, a free-for-all battle with the last ship floating wind, and Dominion, controlling key objectives across the map. Arena will feature multiple ships, each with different strategies, and these ships will be added all for free. There will be no paid ships, ever. Yes, that is the anti-Star Citizen, it seems to be. Cosmetics will be earnable and purchasable, but they're all aesthetics. Players can customize their sails, uniforms, figureheads, and so much more. But what is the long-term vision? Well, you see, beyond the Sea Trials in the arena, the big dream is to be a fully persistent open world. Once again, they've said they're not starting with that, just so they can get a proof of concept and to actually show that they know what they're doing. But picture this, a living, breathing Caribbean with player-driven economies, factions, trade routes, smuggling, piracy, tavern gossip, sailing from Havana to Port-au-Prince, chasing rumors as a French convoy or running contraband under the cover of night. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, the game that Skull and Bones was trying to be but never actually made it into. Could Ahoy actually be the Skull and Bones killer? It's part PvP, part PvE. Maybe you could sit quietly on deck playing chess with your friends, or you could then go next morning and ambush a merchant in the fog. Every role matters in the world evolves as players push and pull against each other. The open world doesn't have a release date yet, and in fact, it is just ideas and plans, and it kind of all depends on how well the earlier game mode releases do, and I'm assuming the final result of the Kickstarter. I think the gaming industry is packed with soulless releases, aggressive monetization, and rushed projects, and Ahoy is trying to stand out from that. Of course, this is all speculation at this point, whether they can deliver on it, but they have all the parts in place. They have all the transparency, and of course, a Kickstarter that shows everything that this game is meant to be. It's a love letter to naval history, a sandbox for immersive roleplay and a multiplayer sim with real substance. If you've ever played Sea of Thieves and wish it had more depth, or if you love the realism of naval action but you actually want it to be co-op and down dirty in first person, this is the game for you. I think this has so much potential to be something special. Be grounded, be ambitious, and be honest about what it is and what it's not going to be. So if you want to, there will be a Kickstarter link in the description. This has not been sponsored. They don't even know I'm making this video, but this is a game that I am passionate about, and personally, well, it's something that I would be backing. So please, let me know what you think. Do you think Ahoy could be the next Kingdom Come Deliverance type game? Of course, set in a completely different time era, yet using the same principles of development, using the same ideas and the same morals when it comes to actually bringing out content and a true game rather than what we've been stuck with within the modern industry. Let me know down in the comments below. But until then, I will see you in the next one.